Hey everyone, this is Jen. You're watching BPD Woman. In today's episode, you are going to learn how to speak up like a pro. How many times have you engaged in a conversation and someone pushes back or they try to manipulate you or guilt you and you crumble and you don't speak up and then you feel bad about it later and you didn't get what you want and now you feel compromised, maybe a little shameful. Well, today, we're going to take care of that. Let's get going. My name is Jen. You're watching BPD Woman. You know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. I have been living with borderline for the last 30 years, and I have been in and out of DBT groups, one-on-one, group therapy, all kinds of therapeutic modalities, and I've done lots of research, and I've been very committed to my BPD recovery. You're in the right place if you have BPD, CPTSD, or are a highly sensitive person that is looking for positive solution-based approaches to recovery. Today I want to talk to you about checking the facts and speaking up like a pro. And so in today's video, you are going to learn how to assert yourself, how to take down manipulative tactics with questions, turning it back on the other person. You're going to learn to feel a bit more confident, and you're going to learn what it is you want out of a situation and how to best go about it. Let's get going. So I'm going to use an example that happened to me today. I have clients, as you know, I run my own pet sitting business, and I have reoccurring clients. And one of them is a very lovely lady with a very sweet dog, and I've been working with them for quite some time now. Maybe almost a year, and I've done house sits. And anyway, I love the family, I love the dog. But the dog, to the owner's wonderful attention, has lost weight, as the dog needed to do. And now her leash and harness have become quite loose on her. And about a month or so ago, I had a situation with a client who failed to kind of give me some background on her dog, but as a result of putting her dog in an incorrect collar, the dog slipped off and was lost. And I essentially spent 90 minutes running around town, calling the police, engaging bystanders, and I got the dog back. But much to my stress, and it just kind of collapsed me for the rest of the day. And after I went through that, the owner of that dog and I, we worked together and we set some ground rules, and she's like, I really need you right now. The dog's been sick. I need you to come by every day. And I said, okay. Well, I was like, this is what we're going to need to do. We're going to need a better leash. And she's like, okay, I'm on it. And I said, we're also going to need some training. She's like, well, I'm going to pass on that. I said, okay, well then you are assuming some liability here because you're not going to train the dog to come or recognize some different commands. And I said the third thing, of course, would be medication to help the dog ease out, and she didn't want to do that. So I said, okay, well then you're assuming this risk. I am not assuming this risk. And, after going through that situation, I learned a good lesson. And I very quickly, I got the dog back, but I was very scared during that time, and I was angry with that client, and I was angry at myself that I had become a part of that situation. And I had to start to think about my reputation, and I had to think about how it would have appeared or what would have happened to my business and my name and my other clients and the people who witnessed that had I not gotten that dog back, right? It could have ruined me, perhaps. It could have stunted my ability to make income. Somebody writes a bad review, right? So anyway, the point is that owner was very responsive and got a harness that's really been working for us, and we have not had any incidences in the last couple of months. So fast forward back to this client that I have now, whose dog has lost a bunch of weight. And last week, I see the dog once a week, and last week the dog was really skittish and very just did not want to walk last week, kept sitting down, was very frightened. The owners had mentioned that the dog had been a little off in the last couple of days. And 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned that, hey, the dog's lost weight. I have put the harnesses to their max capacity, and they're not tight anymore. I could get my whole hand under this harness, and that's not what I should be able to do. I should get maybe one finger. That's about it. So last week, when this dog was acting very anxious, of course, my mind flashed to the dog that had escaped from me about a couple of months ago, a different dog. And I said, okay, well, I need to have a discussion with the owner about this. So in my report card last week, I put it to her. I said, listen, again, this harness is too loose now. The dog has lost weight. This doesn't fit her. She's like, oh, well, you can just, tighten it to the tightest degree. I said, I've already done that. It's still loose. And there was a point where the dog kind of leashed back. And I've seen it happen with all kinds of dogs and all kinds of leashes and harnesses. All the dog has to do is kind of stand back, jump up, and they're out of their harness. It can happen like that. So we had this discussion, and then we went back through a few texts, and she said, well, I just worry about it being too tight for her if I got a different harness, and I would worry about that. And I said, it's up to you. I said, but if she becomes loose, then you have no recourse. She's now out of her harness. She's now out of her collar. She's running away. And then you're going to be even more devastated. You're not even going to be worrying about anymore like, oh, is the dog uncomfortable in the harness? You're going to be worrying about, is my dog about to get hit by a car? So I said it was up to her, but I said, I need to feel safe when I'm walking this dog. I build my reputation on safety. And, after coming off of this other incident, I'm even more tuned into this. And I just simply, I thought to myself last week, I said, this is going to be my boundary. If this owner cannot and will not provide me with a harness that fits the dog, I'm not gonna be able to walk this dog. That's what it is. Because there's no amount of money that's worth it to me. Of course I want to retain the client. They're lovely people. I love the dog. But there's no amount of money that's worth me stressing about, is this dog about to come out of the leash, right? Is this dog about to be lost? Is my reputation about to be ruined? I'm not having it, okay? So I knew a week ago what I wanted out of this interaction, right? And I told her, I said, you can think about it. It's up to you. And I mean that. But that doesn't mean, should she make a decision in opposition to what I stand for, and what my decision is, that I am going to still continue to walk the dog or go along with what she wants. So today, I was supposed to see the dog today, and her walk is $25 a week. And she got a free walk this week because I have a referral program. She referred me to a new person. That person booked and paid, and then they both get a free walk. So 3 weeks ago when I said this, I said, you're gonna get a free walk, blah, blah, blah. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm not worried about that. And I should preface this by saying that she's in a 2-income family. Both her and her husband work. She's a life coach, and she already told me she makes upwards of $150 an hour when she coaches. She has 2 other jobs. The husband's in the military. They're living in a $750,000 house. Okay. So they're doing just fine. And here I am, I am a one person making 1 income, and I have a business to protect and a livelihood to consider. So she got $25 free this week. So today I'm texting with her. I said, hey, I'm on my way. I'm going to be a little late though. I said, incidentally, did you buy her a new harness? And she wrote, no, I didn't. And then again, she sent another text legitimizing the reasons and defending the reasons why she wasn't going to get another harness. And she said, well, I think it fits just fine. And in my head, I'm like, well, no, it doesn't. No, it does not. It should be just fine, but we can chat about it when we get here. And so I said, okay, well, at this point, I'm not comfortable walking her in that harness. So I called her, and I'm going to admit, I was very disappointed with the way that she handled this call. And the key points that I want you to remind yourself here as I begin to tell you about this is, do I stick with what I want? Did I apologize for asking for what I wanted? And was I fair to the other person? Okay, these are the dynamics to consider when you are engaging in conversation with someone. Sorry, got sidetracked by the cute dog there. You okay, girl? Yeah. Hello. Give me a hug. Okay. So I called her on the phone, and we had about a 15-minute conversation. And she said, well, I thought about it. And, I just really like this harness, and I just worry about her being uncomfortable. And I said, well, are you going to worry about her escaping? because then you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands. And then she moved on to the next point. She said, well, I think it fits just fine. And I said, do you trust my judgment? And she said, oh yes, of course, you know. And I said, okay, well then would you trust me if I told you that her harness is too loose? Okay, she conceded. And then she went on to her next point, and she said, well, when we've been walking her, we haven't had an issue. And, you know, last week was really a different scenario. And I said, I agree, you know, so I agreed with a piece of what she said. So I was validating her. I said, yes, it was weird. That's not really generally how she acts. It was concerning for me. But I did see her about to come out of this harness, which is it's just a one strap harness. Like there's nothing really securing this dog in. If this dog really wanted to get away, it could. And I said, I can get my whole hand under there. And she goes, well, and she moved on to her next point. And she said, well, I don't want the dog to be uncomfortable. And I said, a harness should be snug. A harness should not be loosey-goosey. Otherwise, why have a leash on your dog at all? A harness or a leash is meant to keep your dog close to you and so that they don't escape. So then she said, well, you know, then I gotta go. I thought about it, and then she goes, now she's talking about money. She goes, well, you know, then I gotta spend $50, and I really like this harness. And I'm like, I said, well, you know, do you want your dog to escape? No, of course not. But, you know, she wasn't like defending these points. Like, you know, I mean, I was kind of surprised that it even went this far, right? And she goes, well, then I have to spend $50. And I said, okay. I said, well, I gave you $25 free this week. So that's $25 to the kitty. And I said, you know, I'm not aware of any harness you could certainly get a harness for $25. I don't know where she's getting this $50 number from. And I said, listen, okay, I'm gonna stand my ground, right? She's been able to do what she wants. I'm gonna respect her boundary if she's not willing to change this harness. And now she's going to have to respect mine. And I said, well, in that case, then I am not comfortable walking her while she's in that harness. And then I proceeded to give her some other options, which really, she's a big girl. She's nearing 60 years old. She can come, you know, she can make these decisions on her own. And I said, listen, well, you could get this kind of thing that might attach. You get a different kind of collar. Maybe that would work. Well, isn't that what I already have? I said, no, that's not what you already have. And she goes, oh, well, you know, I'm just a bit irritated. And now I was like really surprised that she said that. And it felt a bit disrespectful, to be honest, because I said, you don't think I'm giving you a hard time because I just want to, right? And I explained how this other dog had gotten away. And I kept stressing, you know, I'm worried about safety. Like, this is what you need to keep in mind. You need to know when you're speaking to somebody what your points are. So for me, there's safety, my liability on the line, my business name on the line, the dog safety on the line. And then you have to stick to your points and know what those are. So mine are, your harness does not fit. I'm giving you a week free. I'm willing to give you the second week, you know, that I'm not doing this week. I'll transfer that referral to next week, right? That you wouldn't be getting the dog walk. So that's $50, right? And so I'm giving her solutions to these problems, which really is not your job to do. I kind of probably extended myself a little bit there. But you're a grown-ass woman. Go on Amazon, get it overnighted. I even said, I'm willing to come over this weekend if you'd like to use the walk this weekend, right? And she goes, oh, you know, I'm just kind of irritated that I got to do this stuff. And that really bothered me. You know, lady, you're sitting in a $750,000 house with 2 incomes, okay? This dog has toys coming out the wazoo from all these bark boxes. I can't afford bark box every month. She has all these bark boxes that she's ordered. There are so many toys. There's literally just a downstairs closet filled with toys, and she just sends them off to the shelters because the dog doesn't use them. How much does a bark box cost every month? $20, $25? You know? Money doesn't seem to be a problem for you. And, the fact that she wasn't validating me and that she wasn't hearing me, and then, she was kind of making a fuss and telling me how irritated she was going to be, really, to me, shows a degree of immaturity and insensitivity. The way to validate someone does not necessarily mean that you have to agree with them, but you do have to acknowledge them, right? So what could have a middle ground have been for her? She could have said something to the effect of, I really like using this harness, so I'll continue using it. But hey, you know what? The dog safety is important to me. The way you feel being comfortable walking the dog is important to me. We really like you. You've been reliable and we've been using you for a year. We'll get you a harness just for you for when you walk the dog, right? Boom, done. And that's what the other client did, right? But for some reason, she didn't want to do that. Now, let's go through some facts, okay? Was I reasonable? Ding, I believe I was. Did I have a right to ask for what I had to ask for? Ding, yes, I did. Now, some people may counter that. Well, you don't have a right to ask the owner to get a new harness. Well, I do if the dog's safety is my concern and the dog is in my charge and I build my reputation around, pet safety and being a safe dog walker. Yes, then it is. It's my obligation and it's my job. And it is also, by the way, my area of expertise to say this does not fit. You see one dog all the time. I see dozens of dogs all week long. I know what works, and I think I would be considered the expert here. It would sort of be like me telling her how to do her job or telling her she was doing it wrong, which I'm sure would not go over well. And so instead, she had kind of all these insecurities and complaints and gripes coming up. It was just very immature. And if you have borderline or you're, highly sensitive, then you probably have issues with your self-esteem. And if somebody pushes back on you, like it's done with me over the years, if somebody pushes back on you, maybe the minute that she would have said something to me like, well, no, I didn't. It fits fine. I could have been like, okay, sure, yeah, it fits fine, right? And then just given in. But then I would have felt bad about not standing up for myself. I would have felt bad about losing the dog potentially. And I would also be walking around with this idea of anxiety. So it's totally okay for you to ask for what you want and to assert your boundaries. And why this is important is because no one ever asked you what you wanted growing up. No one really respected your boundaries growing up. Your boundaries were all over the place. I mean, how many of you had parents that shared way too many inappropriate details with you? How many of you were exposed to violence, drug use, poverty? Things that no child should have to think or worry about. I was, right? And so the development of boundaries in your adult life becomes really weird and unclear to navigate, but there are steps to do that. And the first step here is know what you want out of a conversation. Know what your goal is. For me, in this conversation, my goal is I need this dog in a different kind of harness, otherwise I can't walk her. And I'm willing to lose that income so that I feel safe and adequate when I'm walking someone's dog. That's just how it is. This is not like an ask and you can turn me down and I'll be there. Now, the third thing is you have to respect and expect them to say yes or no. And if there's room, you can also try to work out a middle ground. And I gave her many opportunities to work out a middle ground. And, she's begrudgingly going to do that, but, she had an excuse for it fit fine. And then the excuse was money. And then the excuse was it was irritating to her. Okay, well, I don't know how she wanted me to feel after that interaction, but it did put a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. So it's still important, though, to speak up for yourself because, again, no one validated you. No one said, yes, you're allowed to ask for this. No one said, yes, you're allowed to feel uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, what would you like to do about that? Would you like to speak up? Would you like to change that? These are your rights as a human being. Period. And you just have not had adequate experience, especially if you're starting out in your BPD recovery. You don't have the experience behind you to know how to ask for these things. And they're simple. You can start small. You can start small by going into a coffee shop and saying, I'd like a venti skim latte. And, if they give you whole milk, you say, no, actually I need skim. And then you sit back and you let them fix it. Because that's what you asked for and what you paid for. period. The other important thing here is you'll notice I did not make any apologies, you know. She said something, oh, I just feel really, I said, well, I don't want you to, leave this conversation feeling bad, but I hope you understand I'm not bringing this up to give you a hard time. I didn't make any apologies, but I am explaining this to her. How do I feel afterwards is it just as important as how I feel that I'm handling the conversation. And I feel like that I handled the conversation with mastery. I told her what my reasons were. I told her she was welcome to choose a different path, but that I could probably not be a part of that path. I gave her options, I heard her out. I validated her feelings. But I also feel really good that I didn't go over there today and walk the dog knowing that this doesn't fit, because I'd not be true to myself, right? And this is what all this is about. It's asking for the things you want. It's speaking up like a pro, right? And it's knowing what your boundaries are and respecting your boundaries, because no one will respect your boundaries if you don't respect them first, right? Now we'll see. She sounds like she's gonna go get a new harness, but if she doesn't, that's on her. I suspect that she will, but that would be on her, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. Let me know what you think below. Is it tough for you to ask for what you want? Is it hard for you to assert yourself? Do you find that when people push back or they're kind of, manipulating you or trying to make you feel bad, does that make it more difficult for you to ask for things? You can comment, share, like, subscribe below. If you don't feel comfortable doing any of those things, you can also email me at womanbpd@gmail.com. That's womanbpd@gmail.com. My name's Jen. You're watching BPD Woman, and until I speak with you next time, in everything you do, please be effective.